In rock and roll, you get stories about meteoric rises and tragic falls, but the story of Blue Öyster Cult is something else entirely. It's the story of a band that built its own universe, only to get consumed by it. These guys were the Thinking Person's heavy metal band, selling over 24 million records worldwide with a wild mix of hard rock, psychedelia, and lyrics steeped in the occult. They gave us Don't Fear the Reaper, a song that's basically become immortal, and then right at the peak of their power, they started a project so ambitious, so cursed, it would take a decade to finish, get a founding member fired, and lead to the band's total implosion. This isn't just a story of a magnum opus that became a tombstone, this is the story of Imaginos. So how did it all go wrong? To get it, you have to understand the strange and singular world of Blue Öyster Cult. Formed in Stony Brook, New York, way back in 1967, they were never your typical rock band. Their whole identity was masterminded by their manager, producer, and lyricist, Sandy Pearlman. He wasn't just a manager, he was a myth maker, he was a science fiction nerd and student of sociology, and he cooked up a secret history of the world, a mashup of H.P. Lovecraft, conspiracy theories, and gothic horror. This mythology was called the Soft Doctrines of Imaginos, and the band he named, Blue Öyster Cult, was its voice. The classic lineup, Eric Bloom, Donald Buck Darmer, Alan Lanier, and brothers Joe and Albert Bouchard, brought this weird vision to life. Critics lazily called them America's answer to Black Sabbath, but Blue Öyster Cult was smarter and stranger. Their first 3 black and white albums were dense, heavy, and cryptic, packed with lyrics from Pearlman's grand narrative. They built a die-hard following, the cult, who loved solving the puzzle. Then 1976 hit. Agents of Fortune and the monster single Don't Fear the Reaper changed everything. The song was a platinum-selling juggernaut that turned them into arena headliners. Soon came other radio hits like Godzilla and Burning for You. From the outside, Blue Öyster Cult was living the rock and roll dream. They were superstars, but under all that success, the mythology they had made them was starting to rot from within. The massive Imaginos concept was still an obsession for Pearlman and drummer Albert Bouchard, while the rest of the band was getting tired of the whole thing. The first big crack showed up in August 1981. After years of non-stop touring and fighting over music, founding drummer Albert Bouchard was fired. The official story was vague, something about unstable behavior, but the reality was way messier. Bouchard himself later admitted that his passion boiled over, and he ended up bullying his bandmates to get things perfect, straining every relationship to its breaking point. Just like that, the guy who was the main creative force and the biggest champion for Imaginos was out. It was a hit the classic lineup never really recovered from. The 80s were not kind to Blue Öyster Cult. The music world was changing, MTV was king, and image was everything. The band's dark and brainy mystique just fell out of place in a new world of shiny pop rock. Under pressure from their label Columbia Records, they tried to change. Albums like 1983's The Revolution by Night and 1985's Club Ninja saw them ditch their signature sound for a polished, synth-heavy style that pleased nobody, not the old fans, not the new ones either. Club Ninja especially was a commercial disaster. It cost a fortune to make and sold so poorly the label considered it a total failure. The band itself was falling apart. Keyboardist Alan Lanier quit during the Club Ninja sessions. Fed up with the music, bassist Joe Bouchard, with his brother long gone, walked away in 1986. He said the miserable experience of making that album was the last straw. By 1986, the band that had sold millions of records had just stopped. One idea refused to die, Imaginos. After getting kicked out, Albert Bouchard had teamed up with Sandy Pearlman to finally make their shared obsession real. They somehow convinced Columbia Records to give Bouchard a solo deal and a huge chunk of money to produce Imaginos. For years, they poured everything they had into the sprawling rock opera about aliens secretly controlling human history. But the project fell doomed. In 1984, after years of work and insane studio bills, Bouchard handed in the album. Columbia Records hated it. They weren't happy with Bouchard's vocals and just shelved the whole thing. The money was gone, and Imaginos, the masterpiece in the making, was left to die. And this is where the story gets truly bizarre. 2 years later, Blue Öyster Cult was in pieces. their career on life support. Sandy Pearlman went back to the same executives at Columbia who had just rejected Imaginos and pitched it again. But this time, he had a twist. It would be a Blue Öyster Cult album. It was a desperate Hail Mary pass. For Pearlman, it was the only way to save his life's work. For the remaining Blue Öyster Cult members, Eric Bloom and Buck Dharma, it was a favor to an old friend when they had nothing else going on. They reluctantly said yes. The recording of the new Imaginos was a Frankenstein monster of production. It started not with creating something new, but with erasing the old. The plan was to take Albert Bouchard's original recordings and just have Bloom and Dharma sing and play guitar over them. For Bouchard, this was the ultimate betrayal. He thought finishing the album might be his ticket back into the band he helped create. Instead, he was being written out of his own story. He was banned from the new sessions entirely. The album became a who's who of session musicians. Pearlman, obsessed with getting it perfect, brought in an army of talent. Guitar gods like Joe Satriani and Aldo were on it. Robbie Krieger from The Doors was on it. He assembled a guitar orchestra of the state of Imaginos, and a layered sound upon sound. What came out was an album with the Blue Öyster Cult name on it that barely featured Blue Öyster Cult. Joe Bouchard and Alan Lanier only made tiny cameo appearances. To this day, fans still argue if Imaginos is even a real Blue Öyster Cult album. The whole thing spiraled. Production dragged on for years, from 1981 to its release in 1988. The studio bills were astronomical, putting the project deep in debt before it even hit the shelves. It was a monument to one man's obsession, built on the ruins of a broken band. In July 1988, after nearly 20 years of ideas and 7 years of torturous production, Imaginos was finally released. It was billed as the band's great return to their dark, conceptual roots. They even re-recorded old Blue Öyster Cult songs like Astronomy to connect it to the glory days. The album landed with a thud. Turns out the musical world of 1988 wasn't exactly begging for a dense literary rock opera about occult conspiracies. It was a commercial flop. For Columbia Records, that was it. After a nearly 17-year run, the label dropped Blue Öyster Cult. The fallout was a catastrophe. Instead of saving their career, Imaginos blew it up. Albert Bouchard, who had hoped his masterpiece would bring him back home, was left out in the cold. He ended up taking legal action to protect his work. The band, now without a record deal, was more fractured than ever. The grand project that was supposed to be their crowning achievement had dismantled them completely. The story of Imaginos is a classic tragedy of ambition. It's a fascinating, flawed artifact of a brilliant band's undoing. It's a testament to the wild vision of Sandy Pearlman and Albert Bouchard, but also a warning about what happens when vision turns into an obsession that destroys the human element of a band. The very thing that made Blue Öyster Cult so special, their complex, bizarre mythology, became the very thing that destroyed them. They didn't just break up, they were broken by the weight of their own legend. The band would eventually get back together and tour, but that classic five-man brotherhood was gone forever, a casualty of war fought over a single cursed album. So what do you think? Was Imaginos a misunderstood masterpiece ahead of its time, or was it a doomed fantasy from the very start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to check out some more reviews by Blue Öyster Cult, check out this playlist. It should be appearing on your screen right now. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like this video. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.